the Week 4 predictions, and we are going to start off with Thursday Night Football as we have the Miami Dolphins going to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. It is a big matchup right here, Dan.
It really is, man. This is going to be one of the better Thursday Night Football games. At least it looks to be that way on paper. This should be a nice potential shootout. I would say so. Two high-powered offenses. Bengals got their first win of the season. They're on a hot streak right now. But the Dolphins, speaking of hot streaks, man, they are one of the few undefeated teams remaining in the league. 3-0 are the Dolphins. Under new head coach Mike McDaniel. Under Tua, who is having a, honestly, breakout year right now.
Yes, he is.
Like, that offense is striking. It's looking great. They just upset the Bills. And it's hard to not go with Miami here. I know Cincinnati is probably the favorite, which I don't understand why. Maybe because it's in Cincinnati. But I can't bet against Miami right now. They're looking too good. Cincinnati got a win last week, like I said, but I mean, they're not playing to what they were last year.
No.
And again, it's still early in the season, but Miami's just looking too good right now. So until then, I can't bet against them. So give me Miami.
Right. You know, it's tough to see Cincinnati go to 1-3. But Miami's hot right now. They got a lot of momentum. Tua's looking great. Waddle and Tyreek are literally playing exactly how everyone expected. Their defense is definitely being relied on a lot. It's showcasing the Bills game for sure. I got to go Miami here. Again, it's hard to see Cincinnati. I can't really see Cincinnati going to 1-3, but going up against the Dolphins, that might be the case. And Miami, they're looking great right now, and I think they continue winning games right here, and they go 4-0 right here. So, yeah, give me Miami.
And then we move on to the Sunday games. We start off with Minnesota at the Saints. Now, Jameis Winston is injured, and Andy Dalton is getting first-team reps. So I don't know how likely it is that Dalton gets to start here, but that's not good news. However, Winston hasn't looked good the past 2 weeks. He's been Jameis Winston. He's been a turnover machine, honestly.
Now, some of that could be because of his back injury.
Right.
Sometimes that's the case. I don't know, but you're right about that. Winston hasn't looked good. And we could see Andy Dalton starting this game as Minnesota, New Orleans, they're traveling all the way to London since this is a 9:30 game on Sunday morning.
That's right. So we get up early for some early football. How about that?
So with Winston not really practicing at the moment and Dalton getting first-team reps, does Winston really play and having to travel a long distance?
Well, regardless, between Winston or Dalton playing, I'm still going to go Minnesota here.
Yeah.
Minnesota's looking solid. They didn't really start off last week's game versus the Lions hot, but they had a decent comeback. So, give me Minnesota here. Justin Jefferson's been very quiet since week 1, which irritates me because I have him in fantasy.
Yeah, I know.
But going up against Marshall and Lattimore, that should be a fun little battle there. But maybe this is the game that Jefferson, wakes up a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's bound to have a bounce-back type of performance. Because
right.
week 1, he's been non-existent. But
I could see the Saints pulling this off only because of their defense. Their rush defense is still very good. It's been good for a long time now. Against the Vikings, the Saints' offense could do something no matter who's their quarterback because they clearly have the weapons. Olave's looking good. I know Thomas is hurt a little bit, but he should be good to go. Kamara's still Kamara. So I could see the Saints pulling this off, but I'm going to go to high hand with Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know about New Orleans, with the uncertainty at quarterback still. Give me Minnesota right here. I think Minnesota can get the victory in London right here. I just don't know about New Orleans, about their offense and everything. So
now we move on to Cleveland at Atlanta. Atlanta's coming off a very decent showing versus Seattle where they got the dub, but so are the Browns, where they obviously beat the Steelers on Thursday night. They had a mini bye. They even showed last week that they can rely on Brissett to expand offense a little bit. And I think that continues to show. I think they really rely on Chubb and Hunt as they should. And I don't think they have any plans of leaning on them. So, give me Cleveland here.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's looking decent at most recently, and they did get a decent win against Seattle. But Cleveland, they just seem like something about Cleveland, even with Brissett in there, they're getting things going, even when they have some of their bad weeks, they still look good. and that's because of Kevin Stefanski and how he's running the team, even with Brissett in there. And no hate on Brissett. He's looked pretty solid. He's a hell of a serviceable quarterback until Watson does come in the second part of the season. But give me Cleveland right here. I don't know if Myles Garrett is playing as he did, or he was involved in a single car accident. Prayers up to Myles Garrett.
That was scary to read, to hear. It's a miracle he came away with minor injuries. So yes, that's good there.
Thank goodness. And prayers continue to Myles Garrett.
And all the others that were affected by the accident. But I'm glad that all of them came away with minor injuries. But nonetheless, I think we both have Cleveland here.
Yes, Cleveland, I think, wins.
Right. Next game, we have an NFC East battle. We have Washington, who got whipped by the Eagles last week, versus the Dallas Cowboys. They travel to Dallas with Cooper Rush, who, as a starter, is 3-0. Who would have thought?
In his career.
Who would have thought? And honestly, Dallas is looking solid. They're laying a lot on the run game. Their defense is looking really good. They had a ton of pressure on Daniel Jones last week, and I think that continues. Give me Dallas.
Yeah, Carson Wentz got sacked, 8 times maybe last week?
I think it was like 6 times in the first half or something.
Yeah. And Dallas can bring the pressure for sure. They showed that last Monday night against the Giants where they sacked Daniel Jones 5 times. They pressured him a lot. And I think it's going to be the same case for Carson Wentz. Dallas has looked, they've looked better than I think all of us ever thought with Cooper Rush in there.
Yeah,
I think that continues. Dallas for sure gets a win here at home.
Yeah. Next game, we move on to Seattle at Detroit. Seattle, man. It seems like, depending on the matchup, it's hard to take Seattle, and this is another one. Detroit, not a lot of wins under their belt, but they are very competitive. They are a very hot offense when they get going, even with Jared Goff. And because of that, I'm going to go with Detroit here. I just don't trust Seattle, and I like what Detroit is showing so far. Again, not a lot of wins under their belt, but they're showing they can be very competitive. So give me Detroit.
Yeah, Seattle is, they got a good win in week 1 against Denver, against Russell Wilson, but since then they've lost 2 games. They haven't really been able to get back on the win column. Detroit, I could say the same thing, but they've looked much more impressive. They look much more competitive. They look much more better compared to Seattle. And I think Detroit gets their second win here. I like what Detroit's doing. I like what Dan Campbell is bringing to the team. And I feel like Detroit is definitely going to be a team to watch for within the coming weeks and maybe in the coming years for sure in the NFC. So give me Detroit here.
Yeah. Next game, we have another rivalry matchup here. We have, I believe it's AFC South matchup. We have the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. These two teams are just having very weird starts to the season. Indianapolis tied with the Texans, lost to the Jags, but beat the Chiefs. And even with the Titans, they got their first win last week, I believe.
Yeah, they did. They beat the Raiders.
Yeah, so these two teams are having very weird starts. I don't know if Shaq Leonard's going to be playing in this game. He's been out all season for the Colts, and that's really hurt their defense. They could definitely use him against Derrick Henry, who's really starting to get going. But I don't trust Tennessee's defense. They've allowed a lot of yards in the air, a lot on the ground as well. And I think Jonathan Taylor's just waiting to, break away for the season. And I think it happens this Sunday. So give me Indianapolis.
I see why you say that, but I don't know. Something just speaks to me about this game to which Tennessee can escape with a victory. It's something about the Colts that which, they are a competitive team, and it seems like they can win some of these matchups, but then they end up losing them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a quarterback thing, if it's a head coach thing. I just don't know.
What I do know is Mike Vrabel is really going to keep this Tennessee team on track.
And that's why I think Tennessee can get the win here on the road against a division rival in Indianapolis. Tennessee, it's taken them a bit, but I think they're starting to get into rhythm. I think they're going to start, getting on some wins for the season around here. So give me Tennessee right here.
Okay. Moving on, we have Chicago at New York, the football Giants. Giants lost last week. The O-line really hurt, and against the Bears defensive line that's still pretty decent. If we could see something very similar, but I like what I'm seeing from Barkley. He's really starting to have a career resurgence. The Giants are just struggling at receiver. Kenny Golladay sucks. What a waste of a contract. What a terrible contract. When you look at receiver contracts, he's one of the worst in NFL history.
Yep.
That's how bad it is.
He hasn't gotten a touchdown yet throughout his tender with the Giants. No. Not one.
And Kadarius Toney's not getting involved. He was a first-rounder last year. Sterling Shepard just tore his ACL at the end of the game last week. That's terrible. But I don't know about the Bears. I don't. I mean, they won last-second field goal, walk-off field goal versus the Texans last week. It's just I don't know about them sometimes. And plus, Herbert threw 2 interceptions as well last week, although it still resulted in a dub. I'm not sure about the Bears, and it's hard for me to even pick the Bears when I look at certain matchups, and this is another one of those. So I'm gonna go with the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't exactly know Justin Fields' passing stats, but I think it's not even 300 yards yet.
Really?
Yeah. Well, they're hardly throwing the football.
I mean, yeah, they're leaning a lot on Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, who broke out last week.
Yeah.
And honestly, that could be very similar. They could really lean on the run game because, I mean, Dallas did last week and was very effective. So that could be a way Chicago wins this one.
And if you think about it, they kind of have to because Fields is still growing. He only has maybe 2 targets at best, but even then, they're not really getting involved. But at the same time, that could be because they're not doing a lot of pass plays for Chicago. Nonetheless, New York, they suffered a tough loss against Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys, but I think they rebound here at home in New York. I think they get a victory against Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I think New York gets their 3rd win. I'm liking what Brian DeBull is doing for the New York Giants. It's going to take him some time, and I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be in there for DeBull's run as head coach for the Giants, but
not for the long run, no. But so far, so good when it comes to his tender.
Yeah.
Next game, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. Dare I say the Philadelphia Eagles are the best NFC team?
I mean, yeah, the record shows that they are 3-0.
3-0, they're one of the few undefeated teams, along with the Dolphins, I believe. I believe they're the only 2 undefeated teams in the league.
Yes.
And both are led by Bama quarterbacks. One guy took Hurts' job and transferred him and he had to transfer to Oklahoma. And look at him now. That's crazy. As for the Jags, they're looking good with Doug Peterson after a year hiatus. The coach has changed. Trevor Lawrence is looking very good in his 2nd year. He looks refreshed. That offense looks good. They don't even have a lot of crazy names at receiver, but they're getting a passing attack going. And that rushing duo is really starting to become effective for them.
Yeah.
So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jacksonville. Good for them. They had a great blowout victory versus the Chargers on the road. They remain on the road, the Lincoln Financial Field here. But the Eagles are just too good. They're too good right now. And I have to say it. I know it's only 3 weeks and it's early, but they're legit. Hurts is legit. Their receivers are legit, obviously. Their defense is good. I can't believe that the Eagles are actually legit in my book right now.
Yeah.
With the new head coach in his 2nd year, he led them to the playoffs last year, and now to start the season, they're undefeated, and I think they remain that way. So give me the Eagles. I just can't bet against them right now.
No, it's hard to. Philadelphia, with all the moves they did in the offseason after a solid season last year, barely making the playoffs, but the fact that they did with Nick Sirianni as their head coach for the first season, it goes to show that, Sirianni is taking Philly in the right direction and doing the moves that they did this offseason. It's already showcasing within the first 3 weeks, and I think it will continue to do that against Jacksonville, against former head coach of the Eagles, Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Philly had a dominant performance against former Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. I think they do it again against Jacksonville, led by Doug Peterson. So give me Philadelphia. I think they remain undefeated and go to 4-0.
Yeah,
although props to Jacksonville, they're looking pretty solid, but it's hard to bet against Philadelphia.
It is. Their offense is lightning hot, but I do think Jacksonville keeps it somewhat close. But still, we go with Philly. Now we move on to the Jets at the Steelers. You guys just listened to our preview. I mean, I don't know, man. We really got to lean on the defense for this one, but the defense hasn't been much since week 1, since Watt went down. The pass rush needs to come awake in this one. There are no excuses for the pass rush this time. They are hurt at tackle. They are low at tackle on both sides.
Yep.
The pass rush needs to eat. Highsmith needs to eat. Malik Reed needs to start playing some football.
There's no excuses when it comes to the pass rush. This is a time to break out. This is the time to show up.
There's actually no excuses for this game for the Steelers. There's not. The offense needs to start waking up. They need to start feeding Najee, running the ball, helping out the defense a little bit. And because of that, because it's the Jets, even though they're not the same Jets, but they are still the Jets, I'm still going to go Pittsburgh here. And this might be the last time I pick the Steelers to win a football game until after the bye.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I can see the Jets pulling off a victory. I really could, just based on how the teams looked, based on how the defense has been lackluster since Watt's been out, and we all know how the offense has been. But I think somehow, someway at the same time, Pittsburgh does escape barely with a win out of Heinz Field. So give me Pittsburgh here.
Yeah. Next game, we have a potential game of the week matchup here. Buffalo at Baltimore. This should be a good one. This should be a potential shootout, or it could be a defensive battle.
We got two of the hottest quarterbacks in the AFC, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, man.
Right, outside of Tua, obviously, but these two are definitely leading their team to, great prominence right now. Lamar Jackson's looking phenomenal. 12 total touchdowns, I believe this guy has. We all know what Josh Allen's doing. Bills had a loss last week versus the Dolphins. Ravens are looking good as well, so this is a tough matchup. This is actually hard to pick. And truthfully, it could go either way.
It could. You're right.
However, I do think Buffalo's defense is still a little suspect, specifically their secondary. I know they got they got Humphrey back. They got Peters back last week, which really helped them. So, against a Buffalo high-powered passing offense, they're going to need it. They're going to need to step it up. But I'm still going to go Buffalo.
It's hard to bet against them, even after a tough loss last week against the Dolphins. Buffalo's Buffalo, man. You know, they are arguably still the favorite to make the Super Bowl for the AFC. As of right now.
I believe in Buffalo, so I'm still going to go with Buffalo. Ravens will absolutely keep it close. If I know the Ravens like I think I know them, they'll be incredibly competitive in this one. It could come down to a walk-off field goal or whatever.
Yeah.
So this game's going to be close. It's going to be exciting. It sucks it's at a 1 o'clock start time, same time as the Steelers, because I really do want to watch this one. But I'm still going to go Buffalo. I can't bet against them right now. And with the Ravens, they're still a little suspect in some areas. So give me Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I think Buffalo will get the victory here. Baltimore for sure will keep it close. Lamar Jackson will try his damnedest to get Baltimore the win. But I think it's just hard to take down Buffalo right now.
Yeah.
I really do.
Next game, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans. Now, the Chargers are coming off a horrific loss. Blown out in their own stadium. Now they go onto the road to face a Texans team which is looking decent. They lost last week due to a field goal as time expired from the Bears, but they looked good. Dameon Pierce looked good. Jalen Petrie, the rookie, had a great game. Their targets can get open against a Chargers secondary that kind of got torched by Lawrence last week through 3 touchdowns. Davis Mills is looking all right. So the obvious choice would go with the Chargers right here, but I'm going to go upset of the week. Give me Houston. Something about the Chargers it still speaks of Chargers to me. You can never trust the Chargers.
I can understand it. I really could.
And I think Herbert's injury is still affecting him. And I don't know why they kept him in the game as long as they did after getting blown out.
If I'm going to be honest, I don't know why they started him.
I don't know either. And I think it's still going to affect them. So give me Detroit. Or, I'm sorry, give me Houston.
Yeah. I can see why you say that. Despite Houston not having a win yet, they are a competitive team. They've shown that. Although, I don't know, man. Los Angeles, despite how they've looked recently, they're still a hell of a team. They still got a lot of talent. Herbert, he's still dealing with that rib injury, but I think, especially if they get Keenan Allen back in this game, then I think that'll help them a lot with having Allen and Williams back together. And maybe they finally get Austin Eckler truly involved since he has yet to get a touchdown this year.
Yeah, when's this guy going to score? It's got to happen this week, right?
Yeah, but it hurts me because I have him in fantasy, and I've started him every week, and he's got me at most 12 points.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I can see why you say Houston could get the victory, but I think Los Angeles still still wins here.
Right. But we move on to the Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers. I'm just going to make this short and sweet. I'm going Arizona. I don't trust Carolina. I know they got a win last week versus a division rival in the Saints. I don't trust Carolina. I don't like what they have. I don't like what they do. I don't like what they're doing with Rule, Matt Rule at that. I don't know why they're being very patient with him. He's not the guy. I don't trust Carolina. You will rarely see me pick Carolina this year. So give me Arizona.
Give me Carolina.
What?
Just what you said about Carolina, I'm going to say the same thing about Arizona.
I feel you there.
I mean, Arizona is definitely more talented. They're a much better team than Carolina. I just don't trust Arizona. I don't trust Kyler Murray.
I don't blame you.
I mean, listen, I don't trust Carolina either.
But when I look at this matchup, I'm taking Arizona.
And I see why you say that, but some just speaks out to me, not only because it's in Carolina, but I just feel like this is going to be one of those games where Kyler Murray kind of shits the bed, excuse my language. And I think that's where Carolina and their defense can kind of take advantage of that. Now, I know Baker hasn't really looked too great and everything like that. Christian McCaffrey's kind of had a slow start, I'd say, for the Panthers. But I think this is the game where he kind of breaks out and really helps Carolina with a victory here. So give me Carolina for the upset of the week.
Next game, we have New England Patriots at the Green Bay Packers. Mac Jones is injured. He's likely to go on IR due to, I believe it was a high ankle sprain.
A severe one at that.
Which sucks, man.
So that probably means that backup Brian Hoyer would get the start for New England.
Right. And Green Bay, man, you know, they got a very good win versus the Bucs last week. Even without a true number one. They still don't have a true number one, honestly.
Not yet.
A-Rod has, honestly, when you look at the list, practice squad guys as receivers, depth pieces, if I'm being generous. Romeo Doubs is looking good. Alan Lazard's always been a reliable piece for him, but that's it. Christian Watson has done nothing so far in his Green Bay stint.
He's also hurt, too.
And so is Sammy Watkins. He's on IR.
And Randall Cobb, he's nowhere near what he used to be.
No. So A-Rod really doesn't have much to work with, but it's hard to go. It's hard to pick Brian Hoyer to beat Green Bay. So that's why I'm going to go with A-Rod and Green Bay here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean,
don't get me wrong. The Patriots have the run game to rely on and definitely win this one, especially with the run game and Belichick, and their defense is still pretty decent. But it's Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah, and their defense at that, too. You know, I feel like their run defense is still pretty solid. So if they can be able to limit Harris and Stevenson, then I think they got this in the bag, if I'm going to be honest with you. So, yeah, I think Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers can definitely get the win here in Lambeau Field.
Yeah, agreed. Next game, we have another rivalry matchup here. We have the AFC West matchup. This is the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are the only winless team in the league. And after an incredible offseason of Chandler Jones, Devontae Adams, who would have thought, right?
0-3.
0-3.
The worst record in the NFL right now.
The only winless team in the league are the Las Vegas Raiders, led by Derek Carr, but terribly led by Josh McDaniels, who, I mean, we already seen the writing on the wall. He is not a head coach. He's not. In fact, that one time he interviewed for the Colts and took the job and then snaked his way out, the Colts saw that as a blessing in disguise. But the Raiders are the Raiders. They took Josh McDaniels instead of keeping their interim coach they had after the Gruden stuff last year.
Yep.
And now look at them. They have a stacked team, a great team on paper, offensively and defensively, and they're winless. And now they face a Denver team that is not really that great either. In fact, their offense is the most underwhelming of them all.
Their offense, compared to what they have on paper, is severely boring.
Very boring. The amount of 3-and-outs I saw last week versus the 49ers on Sunday night, which was a complete snooze fest, it made me feel a little better about the Steelers' offense. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes me feel like, hey, we may not be the worst offense in the league. Because, my God, you got all that talent, you got all that money invested into that team, into that offense, with a quote-unquote offensive genius at head coach, the dude that worked with Aaron Rodgers
for 3 years, and
3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt, 3 and out, field goal. 1 touchdown per game if they're lucky. The Steelers, have more touchdowns than the Broncos do with Mitch Trubisky and Matt Canada than the Broncos do with Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. Russell Wilson, 9-time Pro Bowler. Nathaniel Hackett worked right beside Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? This game, man, when I look at these two teams and I look at what is wrong with you. You got everything you could ask for, but you're not performing to par.
You traded the whole shebang for Russell Wilson. You paid him a boatload of money. You gave him a big extension to which that extension ends when he's 40 years old. And he is not living up to that contract.
No.
Nowhere near. Not yet.
Not yet.
Could take him some time. I don't know what's going on with their scheme or their play calling or whatever they're trying to accomplish. It could take some time, sure. But from what I've seen, they're not that impressive of a team.
No. However, I can't trust Vegas. I can't trust Josh McDaniel. They have the team. And believe me, it's hard to trust Denver right now as well. But with all that talent, they have to get it together. They have to. So I'm going to go Denver here.
I'm going Vegas here. I just don't know about Denver, man. If I'm going to be honest, they should be 0-3 right now, alongside with the Raiders.
I agree.
They should be. The way that they perform, they should not have 2 wins. I think it's only a matter of time till Vegas does get their first win. I think it is here against the Broncos. I do. I don't like Josh McDaniels. I don't think he's the right guy to lead the Raiders for years to come. I wouldn't be surprised if he were to be fired within the next year or two, if I'm going to be honest.
Maybe before that.
If they're lucky.
If the Raiders keep losing, man, I don't see how this guy remains the head coach.
Give me Vegas here. I think Vegas gets their first win. I just don't know about Denver. I can't trust them.
One good thing I will add about this game that should be fun to watch is Devontae Adams versus Patrick Surtain II.
Yes.
That should be a fun battle. That I'm looking forward to. But we move on to Sunday night, man. We have a Super Bowl rematch. Hopefully it's a lot better than what we saw a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. We had the Kansas City Chiefs at the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bucks coming off a loss to Green Bay, but Kansas City coming off a loss to Indianapolis. Which one can get a win back? I'm going to go Kansas City.
Kansas City.
I'm going to go Kansas City.
You think Kansas City gets their payback after that Super Bowl loss?
I do. I don't think Brady's looking too good right now, and most of that has to do with he has no targets. Mike Evans will be back in this one after his 1-game suspension. Chris Godwin's still hurt. I don't know if Julio's going to be back. Russell Gage had a very good game being their quote-unquote number 1, but they don't have the receiving ability like they used to have, and that's mostly due to injuries. But they will have Evans back, which is a big plus for Brady. I'm sure he's smiling ear to ear knowing he has his number 1 guy.
Yes, of course. On the other hand, I don't know about Kansas City's defense. I really don't. With Mike Evans coming back in this game, I think he's primed for a big game here to go up against Kansas City here to aid Tom Brady, because Brady's only thrown 3 touchdowns throughout the first 3 weeks. Now, that's hard to say knowing he's Tom Brady.
Right.
And he is 45 years old. I get that. Looking at how he's played, he probably should have stayed retired, but that's not all his fault.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you said, it's the receivers being either suspended or injured or whatever.
He also doesn't have Gronk.
And he doesn't have Gronk.
And we've seen when he doesn't have Gronk, he's just not the same quarterback.
We saw it in his last season with New England.
He's not the same quarterback without Gronk. And that's another reason why I'm going to go Kansas City here, is because when I look at that Super Bowl game and I look at these two teams now, Brady's a little older. He doesn't have the same receiving ability, and Kansas City has a better O-line. Now, Kansas City doesn't have the same receiving ability themselves, but these guys are starting to, step up a little bit. Juju had a good game last week. We all know what Travis Kelce can do. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a versatile piece. They got guys that can move the ball around.
Yeah, they do.
So I'm still going to go Kansas City here.
But Tampa Bay's defense, it's still relied on heavily. It's still good. And the offense, I feel like when they can get into rhythm and Brady has targets, I feel like that's when Tampa Bay is at its most dangerous.
Right.
And I think in this game, that's when they start to get into rhythm against Kansas City and get a win here. So give me Tampa Bay.
Now we move on to Monday Night Football to close out the Week 4 picks, guys. We have another rivalry matchup, a lot of them this week, but one of the better ones here, one of the more classic ones. We have the Rams at the 49ers. Second straight primetime game for the 49ers, where they lost pretty roughly to the Broncos last week, where they pretty much had the whole game in the bag until the Broncos decided to wake up for one drive, and Jimmy G couldn't bring them back.
Nope. And he never could.
Never could. Now, the 49ers should be very appreciative of Jimmy G, knowing what just happened with Trey Lance.
Well, of course.
Right, but Jimmy G is he's serviceable. He is, but he's not obviously a full-time leader, full-time starter, not at this stage of his career.
And he's not a guy that you depend on to drive you down the field for a 2-minute offense. And that showcased a lot last year in the NFC Championship game against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yes.
So this could be Jimmy G's time to redeem himself, but I don't really see that being the case even in San Francisco.
I don't know. I mean, Jimmy G clearly has the targets around him. The play calling, the coordinating by Kyle Shanahan could definitely be a little better, and it kind of makes me wonder, was it actually Mike McDaniel that was partially a lot of San Francisco's success last year and throughout their entire stint when they had the early days of Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G. And now Mike McDaniels is out of the picture. You see what he's doing for the Dolphins, and now the Niners offense is still there. They have the same pieces, but possibly not the same play calling mechanisms. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Not that they're used to, although Shanahan is an offensive genius.
He is.
We all know what he did with Atlanta when he was their OC.
But I'm just saying, without Mike McDaniels as a position coach now, without his influence, I don't see the 49ers offense as being the same.
And it's going to be hard to go. It's going to be hard with what you said there, going up against the Rams defense.
Right.
You know, they haven't really been dominant, but they still have guys that can get the job done.
Yes.
Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, guys like that.
Right.
They have guys that can get the job done against an offense for San Francisco that looks much better on paper, but haven't really been executing to their full potential on the field.
Again, that might be due to reasons that we just stated here, and that's why I'm going with the Rams.
And so am I. I think Los Angeles gets the win here.
Right. Otherwise, that is our Week 4 picks, man. Let us know you guys' Week 4 picks down below. And that will conclude Episode 4, Part 1 of the SteelTwins podcast. We appreciate you guys for listening towards the end, if you guys did. Very much thanks. Follow us on Twitter at SteelTwins. Follow us on Instagram at Steel_Twins. And check us out on YouTube, which most of you guys probably already have, at SteelTwins. And, of course, get the notifications on for the podcast, as there are 2 episodes every week. 2 parts, one for the preview and the predictions, and, of course, one for the recap. But hope you guys enjoyed, and see you in the next one.
And like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!